I want to talk about your vessels because I'm sure you know that this is a fascinating topic to those of us who aren't in the maritime industry. I'm sure that there are health and safety procedures that are very specific to your industry. Talk to us about those.
They are specific. One looks at the vessel, one looks at approximately 28 people, surprising enough on those big container vessels, staff of about 28. There's the
I expected so many
so
more.
much more.
Yes.
No. And the vessels are large. They have massive amounts of containers. And it's valuable cargo. And the valuable cargo I'm talking about happens to be the 28 crew. Following on, of course, all the cargo in those containers. It's an incredibly busy and can be risky and can be hazardous. And therefore, the master of the vessel, that's the captain of the vessel, takes responsibility for that. The training is very, very, very arduous. One looks at what is being done at an organization such as the South African Maritime Training Academy in Simonstown, when the cadets are trained, and these are young men and women who start out getting the education before they actually go on ships. Very thorough education in terms of safety training. There's a lot of simulation, because you can't simulate unsafe conditions on a ship. I mean, can you imagine how disastrous it would be? So an organization such as SAMTRA actually has a bridge that simulates dangerous situations.
How fascinating.
And it's like the real thing.
Now, unfortunately we know, and we're going to have to speak about this, that often health and safety procedures are breached, or we have accidents, things happen.
Of course.
And we want to know what happens in an event of an accident.
Well, let's go to the legal requirements first of all. There is a very strict reporting procedure, falls under the Department of Labour. Safety inspectors are sent in, inquiries are held, and incredibly strict. Followed up by that, first of all, the employer has to actually pay an insurance every single month, which assists in the payment of what is called workmen's compensation in the event of an unfortunate incident where an employee is either disabled or partially disabled or so on. And they have a whole system of tribunals for this to be looked at. So very strict. But then on the other side, the employer, despite the fact you can't just say I'm paying a premium for workmen's compensation, you also have a responsibility to the family. And you will find that most good employers rather, will go out of the way to see that the family is all right. Sometimes people are not quite aware of what their rights are, and it's up to the employer to ensure that all employees are well aware of what their rights are in the case of unfortunate incidents as you just described here.
Now, before I let you go, Fred, I would want to hear your advice to an employer setting up his or her business and wanting to know, how do I ensure that my policies are up to scratch, that everything that happens in my organization adheres to the legislation? It seems like a daunting task. Where would you tell them to begin?
It is indeed a daunting task, but it's like, when you launch any business, you've got to look at all aspects. You've got to look at, you've got your VAT number, you've got to pay your taxes, etc. Similarly, you've got to ensure that you comply with the COID Act. That's one thing. But more importantly, you can have all the rules and regulations in the world, but we are human beings, we're creative, we look at ways of breaking rules. It's in our nature to do so, unfortunately. So you have got to ensure that employees understand that unsafe acts are dangerous. The reasons that some employees unfortunately use in saying, well, this is going to cost us money. My response to that is, well, let me tell you about the cost of an accident in your business and how devastating it can be to the employee. So ensure you have the appropriate training. Ensure that you speak to your people on an ongoing basis. Don't do it once a year. That's not good enough. You've got to have weekly huddles, weekly talks about safety. And if you have proper procedures in place, make them aware of these procedures on an ongoing basis and make sure that whatever training in safety you do is sustainable.